thank you so much for joining me today to talk about diversity, women in tech, and your personal journey as well. I suppose, do you want to make a bit of an introduction to who Yasmina is and what you're about and why this is so important?
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me today to share my background and my experience. So my name is Yasmina Passeri. I'm a senior project manager in Hitachi Solutions. I've been in the technology industry for 10, 11 years now. It's a very interesting industry. And from an equality, diversity, inclusion point of view, I would say it's very challenging.
And why is diversity something that you're so passionate about and so keen to spread your story, your knowledge and your experience on?
So I'm from Martinique and Cameroon. My mother is from Martinique, my father is from Cameroon. And I was born in Paris, that's my French accent. So from the beginning, when I was born, I was in I would say, diversity, even though I don't really like to say that, but actually it's the others that show me that I'm diverse. And logically, I would say that in the tech industry, which is mainly, I don't want to say dominated, but there was mainly men, let's say that, right? Yeah. And this is really where I've understood and faced diversity is a real challenge. When I say diversity, it's not only women, it's also not only skin color, it's a very wide area.
Of course. So it's interesting actually, because I think for me personally, my story is probably the contrast, because I didn't realise it was a thing until I can reflect on it and I've met people like yourself and we've talked about your stories and your journeys. Because if I look back on my background, my mum had me very young. She was a single mum and she did so much by herself, and she was someone that I looked to. I have a much older sister and she runs her own business and she does all these amazing things. If we link it to technology, my IT teacher was a woman and she was a head of department and she's gone on to be a headmaster. And then my first boss in recruitment was a female, and she killed it. She absolutely smashed it. So I've always had these inspirational women in my life. And it's not until I look back at other people's journeys and I reflected and went, oh, there aren't many of those people, and I've had this amazing journey. And that is this kind of inspiration that I think people need to see so they can aspire to that without even realising that will help the next generations to be able to develop and thrive, basically. Whereas when you do look around you in technology, but also in recruitment for myself,
yes,
it's men. It's a lot of men. It's a very, very male-dominated industry. So being able to be that person and talk about these topics helps to spread the diversity and make sure it's something that people are more encouraged by.
Yeah, I totally agree with you actually. You know, when it's the same, I work with a lot of clients, international company, and I will take a very factual example. Last week I was in a meeting with very executive from my client, and there were 7 men. I was the only woman. And it's because I was thinking about this interview today that I was trying to understand and look at the different people, and I said, my gosh. Yeah. So I'm the only woman, and if I want to say and add the color, skin color, I'm the only black person in this room. So this is what we are challenging today. Is it negative? Is it positive? I mean, there is no judgment to add, I would say. It's just a fact. Yeah. And what do we do about this fact? What do we do today? How do we inspire people, the young generation, to embrace themselves and not be afraid?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a real challenge, and I have the opportunity to, let's say, inspire, I would say, people. So when we went in London Business School and we did a interview and share a background, and I was very happy to share my experience as well. And I have this young lady came to me at the end and she told me, oh well, thank you so much, your story, your background just inspired me so much. I thought I wouldn't have any place in the technology industry, but you gave me faith. And for me it was the best, I mean the best compliment ever.
Absolutely. We're talking about it now because it's something that we've become aware of, and going back to the sort of the facts of the matter are that actually having a more inclusive workforce helps a business to have different ideas, because if everyone's doing the same thing again and again, it's nothing else is going to develop. But being able to have diversity in leadership positions, we know as a fact that that encourages people to be inspired and want to achieve those similar things. Diversity also helps with decision making from a business perspective as well. Having different ideas from different backgrounds and different ways of thinking helps a business to ultimately is going to increase their revenue because they're covering different bases that others haven't thought of. So yeah, from a factual perspective, diversity is something that we all need to be aware of, something that we all need to incorporate. And I think we are still really at the beginning of this journey everywhere to tackling this, because there's no right, there's no wrong, and we're just starting to make this happen. But the more we can talk about it, I think that's going to be the start of being able to make those changes.
100% agree. I'm a project manager, senior project manager at Hitachi Solutions. And Hitachi Solutions is very keen in developing this equality, diversity, inclusion, I would say, area.
Yeah.
And indeed, I'm part of the workforce work group, and we call that ED&I, so Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Group. And it's very interesting because I've been in this work group for more than a year now, because it's been only 1 year, almost 1 year and a half, that we've created this work group, Hitachi Solutions. So because the company understood that, well, this is an area that we want to focus on, because exactly as you said, it's today. I mean, we even if we look at we work in the street, we see people from diverse origin, diverse background. So what do we do with these people? What do we do with us? And that's why in Hitachi Solutions, we have this work group where we are trying to first of all understand what equality, diversity, inclusion means in the company. Yeah. And how do we address it? How do we equip people to face this kind of situation? Because then the particularity in the consulting is you're not working only in the company, you're working with clients. And clients are other companies. Yeah. So they also, maybe they are very sensitive in ED&I, but maybe they're not at all. So what do we do, you know? So it's very interesting, and especially one of the focus this year on Hitachi Solutions on ED&I is to try to increase diversity in leadership. Yeah. And what does it mean? Diversity in leadership, we were trying to focus especially in women in leadership. We didn't have a lot of women 20 years ago. Yep. And today we still have women that wants to be now in this industry because it's more, let's say, popular, and people understand that it's not only for men, it's not only geeks in this industry. But there is a gap, right? Because it's people from today and people from 20 years ago. Yeah. How do we address that? Yeah. What do we do?
And I think that's exactly where I think a lot of businesses are right now. And as recruiters and being connected in that space, we're obviously helping these organisations to hire and attract more diverse candidates. So being able to offer a more inclusive workplace and something that is going to be more appealing to females is going to be able to attract them to come and work with you. And I think legacy, like you say, you go back years, the workplace 9 to 5, 5 days a week, exactly, doing this on and off, and you come into the office every day, that doesn't lend itself to a working mum or someone who doesn't have someone at home who's able to look after the children. And you often find that there becomes that balance of, do I want the career or do I want to have the kids? But more and more people want it all now, and it's brilliant, and organisations want to encourage that, so they're able to offer the environment that supports that kind of progression. And that's the starting place, because we also speak to customers who say, oh, we want more diversity. Great. Like, that's it. What else are you going to do about it? Because if you still work in that way and you're still doing all the same things, why are you going to attract a different type of audience? Why are you going to attract a different type of candidate? So helping businesses to understand that it's not just a case of, we want a female, give it to the recruiter and hope that they go and find one. That's not quite how it works. We need to make sure that the environment is more attractive, and then also trying to help with the unconscious bias, which is, we spoke about this before, and that's just a massive education piece of, we don't even know we're doing it, everyone does it just subconsciously, it's a very human thing, it's because it's what we know, it's drilled into us, we naturally lean more one way than another, but making us aware of it and putting things into place that will stop it from happening and move away from that so that we can create more inclusivity.
Yes, and I think it's an excellent point, the unconscious bias, because indeed, it's unconscious, right? So we don't know what we are doing it, but we are doing it. And it's related, as you rightly said, on our also, and with history, not history, but background, right? Yeah. On when we were even kids and our family. So, and of course, then we grew up and we just unconsciously repeat what we've learned. And it reminds me something. So there was one time where I've seen, every time I was in a meeting, I was this person that was quite, it was a man, didn't use the right tone. But when my colleagues men were talking, it was totally different. Well, you notice one time, two times, you say, oh, whatever, what you said to myself, what I said to myself, oh, maybe it's just me, just my mind. But then this situation just repeated again, but not only with me, also with two women from my team. And when it comes to my team, as a project manager, for me, I'm here to protect my team. So what I did, I had two different discussions with each of them, not together, each of them, just to try to understand, okay, what do you feel in this project? And actually, she talked to me and she said, yes, what I'm speaking is different. And it's very, not rude, but straight, right? I said, well, fine, thank you for sharing. Spoke with the other woman, and the same thing. So it's not only myself, it's these two women as well. So it's not fair that we are facing this kind of situation. When I raised that to him, he told me, well, but are you sure? I don't think so. Can you believe me, Laura, that I have to justify and insist it for the project director to understand that it's the truth? This is what we are facing. And if I would have speak up, these two women would have never speak up. You just leave frustration, you don't like to work, and then for sometimes personality, it can go to even burnout.
But that's why it's so important that there's people like you who will stand up for other people, and we can talk about these things, because I'm sure there'll be people who watch this who go, I've done that, I've been in a situation like that, because I've been in situations like that, and you don't, but you can very easily go, that's just how it is, isn't it? Because it's a male-dominated industry. That's just what's going to happen. But it's not okay. And to make those changes, we need to spread it.
Take another example. I was in a meeting. There were only men talking because I'm working only with men, right? And I remember that time they're speaking. I tried to speak different times. Each time I tried to speak, they just cut me. And you know what? It's because my personality. Instead of just saying like this, I say, okay, whatever, it's fine. I just close my mouth around the meeting. I had to do as I said, excuse me, man, I'm sorry. I'm already in minority here. Can I speak? Oh, Laura, I think I would have been able to do a speech of 2 hours. All the men would have just not say anything. I had all my space to speak. But again, you have to impose yourself. Why?
I think the changes that we're putting in now it's not going to happen immediately, because it physically can't happen immediately, but it's hopefully starting to snowball. But something that actually was quite disappointing for me, so over the last couple of years I've been looking way more into diversity and inclusion, and it's something that we're talking about, we're doing events, and lots of businesses are incorporating it, and we're starting at the top, so we're starting at that sort of leadership position. What was disappointing for me is that I've got a stepson who's just doing his GCSEs, so he's chosen his options. We gave him a little nudge to say, do computer science, because, tech's where it's at. And so he started doing computer science, and he's loving it, absolutely loving it. But in a class full of 30 kids, there was one girl, and she changed subjects after 2 weeks because she didn't want to be the only girl in the room.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's so disheartening that is still happening. So that's still happening on the ground. So this path that we're trying to map out for us to say that in 20, 30 years time, it's going to be a way more diverse workforce, still not quite right at the roots. And that's where we're going to be able to make the most impact right now. We've got to start at the top, we've got to start at the bottom. So there's still a bit of a journey to go.
So yeah, not industry, in a professional atmosphere, it's even more difficult because we don't know. You don't go to the police, You know, you don't go on, I don't know, social media. You won't post on Instagram, oh, I've been, I don't know, identified or bullying, would say, in a meeting by my client. You can't do that, right?
That sort of brings it back again why females and diverse leadership is so important, because they can understand, whereas if it's just a blanket approach of the same carbon copy of the same leader, they've got the same thought process, they're never going to understand where you're coming from. So for example, again, we've got mums who work at Cognitive and Focus, and they're able to leave a bit earlier so they can get home for bath time and bedtime, and they can do those things. There's that sort of flexibility that we can understand how it works. And that has come from having a female leader on the board who can relate to that person and then make sure that they know that that's really important. And if we're able to address that, we're going to get the best out of that person, and they're going to love coming to work, and they're going to love our brand, and they're going to push that out there because we can do that for them. So everyone wins.
Yeah, that's great. But this is possible only if this woman still embrace her femininity. So if you are a woman, you still need to understand and be and remember all the things that you may have faced as a woman, and be sure that you don't reproduce that, or your colleague don't reproduce that to other women. But there are a lot of women that just wants to, because they want to show that they're capable of doing the same, equal to men. So even if they're pregnant, they come back and they're like, whoof, like as if nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
It's and I've been pregnant, but I know that, from my understanding, it's difficult. You can't go back like
just a little bit.
Just a bit, indeed. So, and you can't come back and say, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same, and here I take an example last time as speaking with one colleague it's a man, black man. Okay, he's facing as well this kind of difficulties, I would say, because he's black. And the thing is, he feels quite unequipped, because it's the same. How can you explain that actually what is happening, I don't have the same rights, and conscious bias again, as my other colleagues, that we have the same experience, maybe I'm even more experienced than yourself, and I will take more time to get in your position. And if you speak with the other people, for instance, they're going to say, no, it's fine, it's not true.
Yeah.
But it's unconscious.
Yeah.
It's unconscious, right? It's difficult to face.
It's the privilege that I don't even know that I have it, because that's all I've ever experienced. I don't know, but I think that's the sort of the root of all of this is going to come back to education. It's going to come back to, unless I hear your story and understand what you're saying, and you can talk about that, how am I going to know?
I truly want to inspire more and more young generation. I said young generation because the young generation will be tomorrow. But also women that are here today. They are women that wants to change industry, And I want also to inspire them, say, well, yes, you can. You can do it. Whether you are white, whether you are from another background, you can, because diversity is not only on the skin color. You can be a woman working, let's say, in HR, and you want to work in tech industry tomorrow, and you say, well, no, I don't have the skills to be. Yes, you have. Because you already restrain yourself, and this is not fair. And if I can inspire people saying, and women, for instance, saying, well, she did it, I can do it. Exactly. That's for me a huge success, and that's why I really, really want to do that. Yeah. More and more and more and more. Speak up for people that that are afraid to speak, and give them the keys, I would say, to equip themselves and not be afraid and face the reality.
Yeah. As well as trying to educate, trying to encourage around interview processes and things like that, and that's sort of more sort of internal when you're looking at who's in the business right now and who's in your team. When looking externally to try and hire talent, we're often sort of talking to our clients about how they can attract a more diverse candidate. And I think historically, a lot of the time they use the same adverts that they've used for 10, 15 years. And actually a lot of the wording in adverts can sometimes be a little biased unconsciously. Being able to make it more neutral so that it appeals to different sort of diversities. So instead of using sometimes the quite aggressive language and trying to describe the culture and things like that in more aggressive tones, being able to use something that's a bit more neutral. And there's a little trick actually. If you copy and paste an advert into ChatGPT, it will, and ask it to, it will neutralise a lot of the wording in there.
Okay.
So AI is influencing every area of the business at the moment. Some of the things historically, I remember a good example was we were in an interview panel, and I was with a colleague, and we were interviewing a female candidate. Well, one of the guys on the panel talked about, oh yeah, they got a box of beers delivered, and sometimes on a Friday we go and play golf and this, and I was going, yeah, that's great, but I didn't have beers because I actually prefer Prosecco, so we did do that. We were very much inclusive, and I didn't go golf, but we went to the spa. So like, that's a perfect like unconscious bias. He didn't realise, he was like, this is great, but hadn't actually applied that to the fact that this candidate might not actually be as interested in that. And I was able to talk about what might be relevant to them, and the flexibility that allows them to be with their young family, and the kind of benefits that could be more appealing to that candidate. We do those things, but it's that unconscious bias that they weren't necessarily aware that they were not addressing it, they're not talking about it. So now moving forward, we always make sure we have a diverse interview panel. And this is something we always recommend to our clients as well, that when you're meeting candidates, you've got a diverse set of interviewers who are talking to the candidate, so that firstly the candidate gets a sense of diversity from your business, but also that they're going to ask questions, different types of questions, because you've got different ways of thinking. So it's going to benefit the business, but also the candidate. I think the message needs to be, you don't need to have a policy, you don't need to have something really fancy, you don't need to do podcasts, you just need to start having the conversation and starting to understand what it is. What does it mean? What does that mean for your business? How can that benefit your business? How can it benefit your customers? How can it benefit your colleagues? And just start having that conversation. As soon as we started having that conversation, it opened up all the doors, and now we have all sorts of things that we do as a business and that we can discuss with our clients, that we can discuss with people who want to join us. That would be my biggest piece of advice. Just start having that conversation, do a little bit of reading, watch a LinkedIn video, start relating it back to who you are and who your organisation is. And I think that'll open loads of doors.
Yes, and use also experience of your own employees in the company. If you have someone that is ready to share his experience, that's even, it's just a cherry on the cake, right?
Talk about it.
Because it's my colleague.
Yeah.
And she is ready to explain, because not a lot of people are ready to stand up again. Mm-hmm. But if she's ready to explain, even if it's your personal experience, for instance, it's gonna at least trigger something to someone. Yeah. So, and if you put everything together, so the company starts to talk about it, then they took real life experience. Mm-hmm. This is how you open the brain of people, and they're gonna say, oh my gosh, wow, that exists. Yeah. That exists.
Yeah. So if there's one thing you want to say to anyone who's watching this video, what would it be?
I would say diversity, equality, inclusion in tech industry is a real topic, like all industries, I would say. The particularity in tech is it's mainly male, let's say, industry. However, it doesn't mean that women are not allowed. And I would say even they are bringing some shine, because we all different. And what makes a gender difference, it's also the capacity of each other to bring something different. Mm-hmm. So if you are a woman and you were thinking about tech industry is not for me, I would say consider it. Just open your mind. Mm-hmm. Don't think about tech, geek, whatever other things that
Your unconscious bias.
Exactly what I'm about to say. Unconscious bias, exactly. Don't think about it. Just be yourself. and step in, go inside the industry, have the interview, ask the company, okay, what do you think about the fact that, for instance, there is less diversity in tech industry? Challenge the company, because even if you challenge the person, you also start to open the brain of this other person. You will have an interview that goes, oh, I know this topic, of course, my company is doing, and you have other people that say, I don't know.
Yeah.
So if this person doesn't know, you start changing the person, and this person is going to change others. And this is how the tech industry that was 20 years ago mainly dominated by male will be tomorrow. I won't say dominated by women, no, because I don't even like them dominated. It's just that women will have also their place. That's it.
Yeah. I think I'd say, if for anyone watching this, to share your experience and just start talking about it. And for anyone who can listen, just open your mind to it. Just open your mind and think about how that could relate to yourself, because there'll be so many lessons to learn.
Yes, 100% agree. Share experience is what I'm trying to do. And when you share your experience, people can identify themselves and they can change as well.
Yeah.